Hello, everyone. Welcome to Creating a New World, Episode 12. My name is Bill Hunsaker, and I'll be your host. I'm a self-leader because I only accept myself as an authority, do not accept any outside authorities, and I think, decide, and act by myself and for myself. And let me welcome our panelist today. His name is Bob McCaffrey, and he's also a self-leader. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Good morning, Bill. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Now, this show is about the 12 Visions world, a world of freedom, wealth, health, and peace. Author and entrepreneur Mark Hamilton thought about what a world without initiatory force would be, and he chose to write the result in the form of 12 visions. They are: number 1, become the person you were meant to be. Number 2, live the life you were meant to live. Number 3, feel extraordinary. Number 4, stop aging. Number 5, get the job of your dreams. Number 6, start the company you always wanted. Number 7, embrace the lover of your fantasies. Number 8, diet down to the body you've always envied. Number 9, become a genius. Number 10, surround yourself with geniuses. Number 11, ride a prosperity wave that will make you a millionaire. And number 12, enjoy nearly perfect physical and mental health. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it?
It does. Sounds great.
Yep.
Can't wait till we get there.
I can't either. It's a world I want to live in. Unfortunately, it does not exist except as an idea. Today we'll take a look at Vision 11, ride a prosperity wave that will make you a millionaire. And Bob, you want to start off the reading by reading the quote at the beginning of Vision 11? And I'll pick it up from there.
Okay. Vision 11, ride the prosperity wave that will make you a millionaire. Inner Circle Vision. That's the technology paradox. Business can thrive at the very moment when their prices are falling the fastest. The only thing that matters is if the exponential growth of your market is faster than the exponential decline of your prices, said George M.C. Fisher, Chairman and CEO of Eastman Kodak Company. The challenge is enormous, he says. Companies have to project out, how will I be competitive in a world in which technology will be virtually free? The new rules require more than ingenuity, agility, and speed. They call for redefining value in an economy where the cost of new technology is plummeting towards zero. Sooner or later, the plunge will obligate the worth of almost any specific piece of hardware or software. Then value will be in establishing a long-term relationship with a customer, even if it means giving the first generation of product away. Business Week, the technology paradox, had how companies thrive as prices drive.
Okay, and just real quick, that word you had problem with was obliterate. So that's that part of the sentence was, this plunge will obliterate the worth of almost any specific piece of hardware or software.
Right.
Just to make that part clear. Okay, I'll pick it up from here. Many new technologies bombarded my thoughts, and of course this is Mark Hamilton speaking, as the 11th vision came to me. A great competitive storm of super rapidly evolving new technologies in tomorrow's 12 Visions world caused consumer prices to fall to fractions. With the success of the 12 Visions Party, the famous free-falling prices of computers and communications spread beyond the computer industry across many old industries and all new industries, reaching nearly all consumer products. Then even modest paychecks and savings were worth a fortune. Well, you got rich without lifting a finger in that 12 Visions world. The computer revolution was a forerunner to a technological revolution that drove prices toward zero and values toward infinity in most industries. Today, people wonder where the technological revolution will take us. America's richest man and other powerful people predict mind-boggling technological transformations culminating in a distance-free world. They are right. The walls of distance have nearly come down as digitized information traveling through broadband fiber optic cables and between personal satellite dishes let us work, learn, shop, and play anywhere in the world, anytime, regardless of where we live. But those visionaries have limited insight into what will really happen. They do not predict the enormous wealth. You see, they do not know that mankind is about to leave behind his bicameral programming and end the hierarchy of authorities ruling over him. The very large financial benefit of ending the ruling class brings increasing pressure for people to overcome their mutant bicameral mentalities and vote in the 12 Visions Party. The most powerful and fastest moving trends throughout history were economically driven. As this monetarily motivated trend to end the ruling class grows, my 11th vision showed me big government eventually could not hold. My vision showed me that during the first quarter of the 21st century, big government popped off society like a champagne cork. Suddenly, millions of super entrepreneurs sprouted forth out of nowhere. They were the first to jump into the neothink mentality. During my 11th vision, those millions of freed super entrepreneurs caused a catalytic progression of tomorrow's super technologies, which caused a catalytic explosion of buying power. The era of inexpensive super technologies showered upon us. Cost-collapsing telecommunications, fiber optics, digitized information, super-powered personal computers, the internet, robotics, the Genome Project. Those were only a few small clouds at the turn of the millennium before a giant storm of competitive geniuses and their super technologies. With the success of the 12 Visions Party, the geniuses feverishly competed day and night against each other to bring us breathtaking values for just a few dollars. When the technological storm began, more and more affordable super technologies showered upon us day after day. Our buying power soared, and it never came back down once lifted by the great technological twister. Our lifestyles became our fantasies as our buying power kept soaring until we lived as millionaires, including the poor. All along, the only thing that prevented our millionaire status was big government. Until the success of the 12 Visions Party, throughout the 20th century and into the 21st century, most industries and their technologies were terribly burdened by big government, by regulation, legislation, litigation, taxes. Excuse me. Most industries and technologies had long been politicized. The government, the computer internet industry had not, although there was a growing attempt, starting with the infamous antitrust lawsuit brought against Microsoft. Without carrying the same burden, the geniuses in the computer field easily jumped ahead. And that was the difference that allowed prices to miraculously race towards zero. That was a preview of the technological revolution that will happen with the success of the 12 Visions Party. Over the next 3 pages are 3 oversimplified images that flash before me during my 11th vision. Now I'm going to briefly describe these images so that you can understand it. The first one shows the structure of government. At the top is the Constitution, and then you have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Under the executive branch, you have the president and the vice president and all the departments with the secretaries that head them. And under the departments, you have the regulatory agencies and commissions. And on this picture, it shows that it says at the top, bugs in society holding back the millionaire phenomenon, with arrows pointing down. And below the arrows, it says regulations, technology held down. In the second picture, shows the same structure of government, only the regulatory bureaucracies are removed. And this at the top says, tomorrow's Make the People Millionaires megatrend to rid the bugs, and shows technology free to soar and arrows pointing up. Then we have a third chart that shows, that is titled Millionaire Phenomenon that will make people live like millionaires. And at the top it says new technology free to soar, and below that it says cost of living, and shows all costs of living going down, including new house, new car, healthcare, etc. And shows time at the bottom during the 21st century, and on the left side it shows a scale of luxury from poor to well-off to wealthy to rich to very rich, and it says standard of living of ordinary people, and an arrow curving steadily upward. Now, that's probably a very poor description of those pictures, but hopefully it gives you the idea of what Mark Hamilton's trying to bring across. I will finish up with what he has to say about that here. My 11th vision showed me technologies in all areas of life free to race ahead in the way the computers had. In that 12th vision society of rapidly advancing technologies, living costs fell to fractions in the way the computers had. Buying power in all areas of life multiplied 100 times or more. I saw ordinary people living like millionaires in custom homes, driving luxury cars, and vacationing all over the world, first class. Even the poor enjoyed the gifts of life. One man had the power to quickly bring us into the 12 Visions world where poverty and suffering no longer existed and Americans lived in luxury. That man was the President of the United States. In the 20th century and early 21st century, no president would excuse me, initiate the millionaire phenomenon because no career politician would slash his own base of power. But now we have seen a sample of great prosperity. And there are two charts comparing how computer costs have plunged as computer technologies have soared, increasing your computer buying power. It says the cloud before the storm, the unmistakable forerunner, and then finally the millionaire phenomenon of the 21st century, which says all technologies free to soar and all living costs to plunge, and all buying power increasing from richer to richer. The regulatory seams around society restrict new technologies and hold back the technological revolution. Those regulatory seams holding back the technological revolution also postpone the job revolution and block 100 million super entrepreneurs. When big government disintegrated with the success of the 12 Visions Party, modern technologies burst out everywhere and mixed with millions of unleashed super entrepreneurs using neothink. The overwhelming creativity pumped into the new super society generated prosperity that went off the charts. beyond anything ever contemplated in economic think tanks. Even the poorest Americans experienced enormous wealth. Excuse me. Take a drink real quick. The most important part of this, from my perspective, is that in order for this to happen, a lot of people have to want it. If it's just a few people, it's not going to happen. And that's why I'm doing this show, to reach out to everyone and show them that how they can create this wonderful world that they would want to live in. I mean, without a lot of people wanting this, we won't get the 12 Visions movement won't get a president elected, and none of this will happen. So, you know, all it takes is for you to want it, for you to want this to happen, and if enough of us want it to happen, it will happen. Go ahead, Bob.
There are a lot of people out there that have voiced their opinion that they're not satisfied with the way that the status quo is today. And voicing your opinion and just mouthing off about it really isn't going to get it done. If you want to do something and you want to see this really happen and things change, you have to get into the game and participate. Get out there and do what you can to move things forward and encourage other people to do likewise. And that's the only way that we're going to make it happen, where we will reach the 50 million people that we need to get the president, the 12 Visions Party president, into office. So, you know, I suggest that if you're out there and you really want to see things happen, you get in touch with the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey, or get in touch with the 12 Visions Party National Committee, and let them know that you want to get involved, and ask them what you can do to help move things forward to make a better life for everybody. It takes some action, so please get out there and do something.
Yes, I agree totally. The first and foremost, think about yourself. You want a better life. You want to have all the things you want. You want to be, you know, you don't want to live in a world where you live paycheck to paycheck, or are under crushing debt that keeps you from living the life you were meant to live, from finding happiness. So you just reach out and do whatever you feel comfortable doing, including, and we'll talk more about what you can do later in the show. But that's the main thing, is first and foremost, you got to want this, and then you got to, you know, do whatever you feel comfortable doing about getting in. Any other comments on that, Bob?
No.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Where's the Force? And topic for today will be
let me give you the one that I presented to you a little bit.
Certainly, I'm open to suggestions. Go right ahead.
Just so everybody knows, my stepdaughter is in the process, her and her husband, to purchase a house. And originally they were looking at a no down payment setup. And the bank come back and said no, with the interest rate that they were getting, no, that they couldn't do that. They had to come up with a down payment. And it couldn't be something that they borrowed money. It had to be a gift from somebody, and it had to be a free gift. So she came to me and asked me if I could help her out. So I agreed. Yes, I'll help you out and do what I can. And I did come up with the money for her, and wrote the check and forwarded it to her. And the loan company, after she got the check, they said, well, we need a letter from the giver stating that this is a free gift and it doesn't have to be paid back. So she called me and told me that, and I said, okay, I will write the letter and fill out the form that they wanted. They had a form already set up. So
Mm-hmm.
I signed the form and forwarded that it was a free gift. And then that wasn't enough. Then they come back and they said, no, they want a copy of my bank statement. They want to make sure that the check cleared the bank. And with that, I told them, no, that's my personal business, and I don't feel there's any reason that they need to know or I need to turn over my bank statement to anybody. So I said, I can prove that the check has cleared and that the sufficient funds are there. Uh, so what I did is I went online and I copied that specific check, and the way they put it online, I can click on the check and it shows me the check, both sides of the check, the original check, and then it shows the endorsement on the back, and it shows that it's all stamped and cleared, and this is all on my bank letterhead, and I forwarded that to them, and that still wasn't enough. They still wanted 7 pages of my bank statement. And I told him, no, I am not willing to do that. So with that, I went to a few banks and find out what the FHA ruling is on that and what is required. And the information that I got is the only thing that's required is for me to send a check, verify that the check is cleared, and that's all I should have to do. But when I talked to the bank again, they said, no, Homeland Security says you have to fill this out. You have to give us 7 pages of your bank statement. So I went on the FHA loan page, the home page, to check out what the requirements are for a gift. And there is no statement in there whatsoever that says that the donator for the gift has to be a relative or a close friend or an organization, a religious organization that's willing to donate the money, and that's all that's required. Now I've met all these requirements, and yet this bank, this woman, when I got done with her, she says, well, if you can't give me your bank statements, then I'm going to have to cancel the loan. And I don't feel that this is appropriate. My son-in-law and his wife and my stepdaughter have met all the requirements. Everything that they needed as far as getting the loan was approved, including getting the gift. And now they want the gift giver to turn over his financial information. And I don't think, and they have not showed me any place where it is required or any valid reason why they should have to have that information. And this is my personal information, and I'm just not willing to give it out. So unfortunately, my daughter and her husband are not able to get this loan.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because this is an aspect of government that particularly bothers me. Is that once again a problem arises, such as terrorism, and they pretty much overreact, and in order to protect us, they persecute us, and they presume we're guilty and find different ways to find out how we're guilty. And this is one of those ways. We discussed this before we went on the show, and you described this as a witch hunt, and I totally agree. They're just fishing for some other thing not related to what you're trying to do to get you for.
Yeah, and the thing is, as I explained to the woman in the bank, I'm a hard-working man, and I have been all my life. I'm going on 74 years old. I'll be 74 years old in July, and I'm still gainfully employed full-time. I am receiving Social Security at this point also. So this is why I'm able to come up with these funds, because I have 2 incomes coming in that I've been smart enough to put some of it away and be able to hold on to it. And for such an occasion like this, where I have a need within the family, where somebody needs some help, and I'm in a position where I can help them. And yet, because I'm not willing to turn over my bank statement, they're canceling this loan and will not allow this loan to go through.
Yeah, and this is an example of where government overreaches, and And basically, they use as an excuse something that happens. A small group of people does something terrible, and this happens across the board. And we have an overreaction, and we basically, because of the terrorism, everyone's assumed to be a terrorist until you prove you're not. If you want to fly on a plane, you got to prove you don't have some kind of bomb on you.
Right.
And that's assuming everyone's guilty until they prove themselves innocent.
Right.
It's absolutely necessary to protect us from a few incidences of planes being bombed or being hijacked. I don't think it is, but
And yet the criminals,
Mm-hmm.
and yet the criminals that do these things are assumed innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly, when they go into court.
And here the ordinary, everyday citizens get punished because of this.
Yeah, they're assumed guilty until they prove themselves innocent.
Right.
And this happens across the board. Some lunatic goes into a school and shoots up a bunch of people, or goes into a business and shoots up a bunch of people, and suddenly they're calling for taking guns away from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what government always does. They use something that rightfully frightens people to overreach and take away our freedom.
And what people have to stop and think is, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yes. And reasonable people with guns protect people. They don't, they don't just kill people. They protect people. In a lot of these incidences where somebody's gone in and shot people up, if somebody in there, a reasonable person in there had a gun, they could have ended it long before, a lot sooner, and fewer people would have been hurt or killed in those incidences.
Right.
I mean, you can't wait for the police to come. By the time the police get there, a lot of people have been hurt and killed, and the person usually just kills themselves. And then there's, what do you have? You have dead people, and it could have been prevented, basically.
Yeah.
So that's the force, is that government basically, takes an incident that scares, frightens, or bothers people and turns it around to, to use force against all citizens, basically,
right.
and take away more of our freedoms. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate you bringing up that topic. That was an excellent topic to discuss. Okay. We're going to move on to how we can create the 12 Visions world. And right now we're looking through the 12 Visions Party national platform. And we're gonna pick up where we left off in the last show on page 16 of the platform, starting with the section headed Defining the Suppressed Class. And I'll go ahead and let you, Bob, go ahead and read that section. Let me look real quick. A little bit ahead. Go ahead and read the next section too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I ask both the poor and the middle class, how would you like to see your little bit of spending money buy 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times more goods? I ask both the struggling and the successful self-made business owners, how would you like to keep all of what you make without paying nearly half your money to the government? How would you like to have no more state and federal regulations burdening your business and cutting back on your profits? The poor, the middle class, the struggling business owners, the rich business owners are in the same family. Although they are played against each other by the ruling class, but they are in the same family of non-ruling class or suppressed class. When suppressed class is free from the ruling class, then the self-made business owner soar ahead and compete for our business. They drive down our prices, which in turn drives up our buying power, making the poor and middle class more prosperous. Remember, the computers, period. Oh, hold on, I just lost the place here.
No problem. You're at the top of the section headed
Yeah,
Society's Two Families.
society's two families.
Mm-hmm.
Societies consist of two families of people, the ruling class and the non-ruling class, or the suppressed class. That is, the ruling family and the suppressed family. Because of decades of media abuse, most people today do not understand their family relationship. For example, clever people in the ruling family influence people in the suppressed family to dislike each other. We are led to believe we dislike even those in our own family. Those
Sorry, Bob, that says even hate those in our own family. Go
Okay,
ahead.
got it. I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
Even hate those in our own family. Those geniuses of society who are actually our greatest benefactors. We don't realize the geniuses of society whom we are led to hate and actually part of our suppressed family, part of our non-ruling class or the suppressed class. They are the successful partners who want to make their children successful too. Those geniuses of society, if they're left alone by ruling class, if not targeted,
Maligned. Yes, go ahead.
malaligned, regulated, attacked, and pushed down by the ruling class. Those geniuses of society raise the standard of living for all of those, for all of us, so the fast and the dramatically that less the fortunate would quickly prosper and fulfill their lives. In fact, even the poor soon like millionaires, soon live like millionaires. My computer's jumping too far ahead here on me.
Do you have a mouse with a mouse wheel? You could use it to scroll down. Go ahead.
The computer revolution gave us the most recent example during the computer buying power multiplied it 1,000 times in a few short years. The invention of the assembly line starting with Henry Ford's automobile was another example. When people could suddenly buy cars and other mass-produced goods that only millionaires could previously afford. There have been other examples too, including an eye-opening example in this platform involving the railroad industry. There are examples throughout history involving airline industry, the food industry, the publishing industry, the housing industry, the appliance industry, the medical industry, and more. All such examples have a common thread. The ruling class was not yet hovering over those industries at the time of their prosperity explosion for the people. They all have yet another common thread. Their prosperity explosion for the people were all stopped by the ruling class, as you will see when you read the heartbreaking story of James J. Hill later in this platform. The geniuses of society are like our successful parents who want to raise us to be successful and happy too, although we have been led to dislike or even hate our successful parents. Henry Ford was a generous, he was taken to court and thought to be going crazy for he dramatically overpaying his employees and undercharging for his cars. Of course, his genius worked, and he raised the standard of living of the entire country. If the geniuses of society were left alone by the ruling class, and if the people were not fooled by the ruling class, then the geniuses would raise our standard of living and win our love just as the employees and customers loved Henry Ford. But by maligning and suppressing our greatest benefactors under the relentless bad press, suffocating regulation, and abusive litigation, The ability to send our standard of living soaring to a new height is destroyed. Through the clever use of lies and propaganda, the ruling class led us to dislike geniuses of society as we remain suppressed in a financial and emotional inferior lives. I have spent over 30 years researching and uncovering this well-hidden secret of the ruling class. Political leaders have suppressed the
Tenets. Go ahead.
tenet of the prime law for 3,000 years. I have written thousands of pages of evidence exposing the 3,000-year-old secret suppression by the ruling class. I have also prepared in the TVP movement the rapid solution to liberate us from the great suppression. As you will see, my rapid solution will bring us stunning explosions in our standard of living. With my solutions, all people will live like millionaires in the 12 Visions world. We saw it happen to the computer industry. Now it can happen across the industries. The 12 Vision Party, along with the Prime Law, are here to make that happen.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, this is basically it. The 12 Visions movement will cause this to happen. But in order for it to happen, it needs the support of lots of people. It can't be just a few people, because we have to get a president elected, and that takes a lot of people who want to see this happen. And that president has to do a lot of things, which will be described in this platform, and it will need the support of the people. Otherwise, the ruling class will first the ruling class will try to prevent him from being elected. Then the ruling class will try to shut him down and prevent him from doing the things that will bring about the 12 Visions world. So the more people that support him, the less likely, because then the ruling class will see that if they try to stop what the president is trying to do, that they'll get voted out of office by the people that want this to happen. So that's what I see from this. I mean, basically, we have a government that is finding different ways to exploit us while pretending to protect us and help us, and take more and more money from us. Every year, legislators try to find different ways to get money from us through taxes, things you have to pay for despite the fact that you're already paying taxes, like vehicle registration, and anytime you have to get a certificate or something, from the government, you have to pay for it, even though, like I said, you're already supposedly paying for it through taxes, and everywhere around, and even locally here in New Jersey, towns started trying to do things like user fees to get people. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
There are examples of this happening right now in New York City. There's tunnels and bridges that have been free to the drivers driving vehicles since they were initiated or installed, and now they're trying to levy a tax on them and charge fees to go across these bridges and tunnels in order to help to pay for public transportation. And here again, they're penalizing the people that want the freedom or require the freedom of driving their own vehicle and commuting back and forth on their own, and they're penalizing them because they're doing this and forcing them to pay fees to help support the public transportation. And realistically, they're already paying enough fees because they're paying taxes and that, and their gas and in their registrations and that helps maintain the roads and keep the roads so that they are able to drive their vehicles. And it's just additional fees that are being put on these people that are already suffering from high taxes.
And the reason they've done this, all the towns in New Jersey that have been trying to charge additional user fees on top of the property taxes that they're already charging, and what you're talking about happening in New York, is that they've basically given themselves and their employees, amazing health and retirement benefits, and now they're struggling to pay for these things.
Right.
I mean, if you give everybody full salary at their retirement, eventually you're going to have thousands of people that you're paying full salary for doing nothing, and
Yeah.
that adds up, and pretty soon you don't have money to provide the basic services that you promised to the people in your town.
Especially when you have individuals that work in a position where they work for maybe 4 to 8 years at the most, and then they retire and they receive their pension, which is about the equivalent of their salary for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
They'll all do that. It'd be great, but who's going to pay for it all?
Exactly. And they're forcing us, they're using initiatory force to make us pay for it through
Right.
increased taxes and user fees and tolls on bridges and tunnels and roads where there weren't tolls before, and so on. And, eventually there's just not going to be any money left. People aren't going to be able to live, or they'll refuse to pay the taxes so they can live, and the whole thing's going to collapse. And then that'll be much worse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to create a world where there aren't people who are basing their livelihood on taking our property by force, basically. That's what the ruling class does. Okay, I'm going to continue on to the next section. Points to remember. And this is probably the last one we do unless we have plenty of time after we finish this one. Certain people whom the leading class causes us to dislike or even hate will actually make us rich, including the poorest among us. Even the poor will be rich in the new TVP political system. Indeed, the unhindered geniuses of society will make all of us rich, just as they did in the computer industry. The 12 Visions Party provides the practical step-by-step system. The political leaders whom the ruling class caused us to admire or even love will eventually make us poor, including the middle class, even the rich eventually. Our political leaders are members of the manipulating ruling class who were never around the computer industry during its prosperity explosion for the people. They suppress us and suppress the geniuses of society who could make us rich. The 12 Visions Party opens the flight to economic freedom and personal riches. The most ambitious get-rich plan since the beginning of time is upon us. It is up to you now to recognize this rare opportunity. You and your loved ones are the direct beneficiaries. This new direction has never been done before and never conceived at this scale. Bringing down the ruling class sends the huge suppressed class at all its levels soaring up to the wealthy elite class, including you. How exactly will this happen? The rise of the 12 Visions Party with its Prime Law Amendment and protection-only budget, i.e. a Prime Law budget, will eradicate the rule of man to make all industry totally free. The geniuses will drive down costs and drive up buying power until we all live like millionaires without lifting a finger. America, or any country that adopts the 12 Visions Party with its prime law, will become and remain the richest nation on earth. And that's the whole thing in a nutshell. That's how we create the 12 Visions world, is take away the ability of the ruling class to use initiatory force to live off of us, basically. And that's what I look forward to and why I support the 12 Visions movement and why I'm involved in the planning and you know, execution of the 12 Visions movement.
Right. And that's the only way it's going to happen, is for people like us to get out there and get involved and make it happen virtually.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to stop here. The next part is the next big section of the platform, so we're going to pick that up in the next show. And now we'll talk about how can you help create the 12 Visions world. And I've usually waited until we only had a few minutes left, but this time I think we could expand a little on that discussion. You know, as I've said in previous episodes, you can there are many ways to help create the 12 Visions world. One is by getting directly involved in the 12 Visions movement, joining the 12 Visions party, and working to move it forward, helping to plan and move things forward in your state, finding out how to put the president on the ballot in your state, and then moving forward plans to make that happen. And another way is to support the 12 Visions movement financially, either at your state level or at the national level. To if you have the money to do it and you want to do it. Additionally, you can volunteer to help. Not be directly involved in the planning, but volunteer to help do what needs to be done. Because our primary goal right now is to put a presidential candidate on the ballot in every state. And you can help doing, and there are many ways you can help doing that depending on how that is to be done in your state. Also, you can just talk to people. Tell other people about this. Tell them, you know, what the wonderful possibilities are, how things will be made so much better in the 12 Visions world. Just talk to them about it, as I'm talking to you about it now. And also, when we have a 12 Visions Party presidential candidate on the ballot, or any other 12 Visions Party candidate, vote for them. Go out and vote, even if you haven't voted in years. Just go out and do it. And that's the easiest and simplest thing you can do, even if you do nothing else. Just if you see that there's a 12 Visions Party candidate on the ballot, vote for them.
Yeah, and then another thing they can do for the people that are maybe viewing this at a later date,
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at the information on Google or on Facebook, and take down the date of our next program, and come and join us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
come on the program live, and maybe be able to participate or share information that you feel or what you'd like to see, and you know, just open your mind a little bit and learn a little bit more with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning every day as we go. We learn different things that happen and different things that are done and different things that are forced upon us. You know, come and join us and help us to move things forward, if it's you know, something that you desire.
And anyone who's interested in coming on the show with us and joining our discussion can send me an email at whunsicker@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to get in touch with you and set things up. Also, we'll talk a little bit about how to support this show. Of course, the simplest way to support this show is just tell other people about it. But also, if you'd like to help us possibly maintain the equipment to produce this show, and if you consider what we're doing with the show of value, you can also support us financially by going to patreon.com, and that's spelled patreon.com/creating a new world. And there you can pledge to support the show by you can pledge $1 or more per episode to support the show and help us produce it, and we would greatly appreciate that. And you know, and also you can go on Facebook to the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey page and like that page and talk about the show on that page. That would be great. Or you can go on Google Plus. You can go to the 12 Visions Party of New Jersey community on Google Plus and join that community and discuss the show there. There's also a special Creating a New World community on Google Plus that you have to ask to join, but pretty much anyone who asks to join will be allowed. We just want to make it a little bit members only, where you can discuss the show there also. And that's about all I have. I have no problem ending the show here unless you have something more to add, Bob.
No, I don't have anything else at this point.
Okay, then I want to thank you very much for coming on the show and discussing these important subjects with me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Bill. Have a great day.